Encrypt the money. The asset standing in the way of that pledge is XRP, and the man who made it says he'll keep lobbying for privacy coins until one of them is back amongst the 3 biggest assets in this market. This is your XRP news desk. That was Mertz Mumtaz, the CEO of an infrastructure company called Helios, and the report carrying this pledge names XRP as the barrier on the road to the top, behind only Bitcoin, Ethereum, and stablecoins. So the flip talk got loud this week. And it is a story about XRP, whether you follow Zcash or not. There is one figure in that report that ends the argument before it even started, and I'll be getting to it. There's also a per coin price the challenger would have to reach for that flip to be real, and I'll tell you the true value. And if you want a desk that opens the paperwork instead of the headline, hit the subscribe and like button. I'll start with XRP's own number because that's what every version of this argument gets measured against. All the XRP in the world adds up to $93.45 billion at $1.49 a coin, just under 100 billion XRP in existence. That figure is published on the ledger itself, and it barely moves. That's the wall. The flip talk says nobody else is about to climb, and the challenger to XRP has had a real week. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Zcash traded above $814 a coin for the first time in 8 years. This is a coin that fell to $250 in June after a vulnerability in something called the Orchard Pool, and it hasn't just recovered, it's cleared its old ceiling and kept going. All of it together now adds up to about $13.7 billion against XRP's $93 billion, and the thing driving it isn't a payments deal or a bank or a country, it's a fund. Grayscale has already sent its final document to the SEC. The ticker is ZCSH, and it's a Zcash ETF. Trading is expected to begin on the New York Stock Exchange today, which is why the flip talk aimed at XRP got loud this week. Now here's the figure I promised you. That fund holds over 393,000 coins, worth a little over $260 million of Zcash, with Coinbase holding them. That's $260 million. That's the vehicle that's supposed to close the gap to XRP. And you've already heard how wide the gap really is. And that's where the conversation should have stopped. But it didn't. So people started doing the math backwards. And the report itself prints the answer they got. For one Zcash to be worth one share of the XRP pile it's worth today, a single coin of Zcash has to trade over $5,500. That's a 680% move from where it sits right now. And ask yourself what that number actually is. Is it a forecast? No. Is it a target somebody is buying towards? Also no. It is a division problem, and the answer only tells you what it would cost to draw a level with XRP's price today. Hold on to the XRP count. Just under 100 billion XRP coins are in existence. Zcash has a hard cap and a supply a tiny fraction of that size. When you multiply a price by the coin count does most of the work. So a coin with very few units needs an enormous per coin price to reach that same total. And a coin with 100 billion units just doesn't. That's the whole trick. The flip framing takes a fact about math and dresses it up as a fact about demand. And those aren't the same animal. Say it the other way. Nothing in that comparison tells you that a single dollar moved out of XRP and into anything else, not even one. And notice what the comparison quietly required. It needs somebody, somewhere, to pay $5,500 for a coin that a brand new fund holds over 393,000 of. One of those numbers is what exists. The other is what would have to happen. And I want to be fair about the report because this is the part that got skipped. The same piece says analysts view the flip scenario exclusively as a long-term math benchmark. And it says the true depth of institutional demand for Zcash will be judged by what ZCSH actually trades for in its first few days as the ETF. The fund is the test. The test hasn't happened yet, and everybody arguing about it was arguing about a ticker that never printed a price. So ask the simple version of it out loud. If a fund listing was enough on its own to carry a coin past XRP, why does the report carrying that idea end by saying the answer depends on trading volumes nobody has seen yet? It ends that way because the people who wrote it know the difference between a launch and a bid. A launch is a date on a calendar, and a bid is somebody actually paying. The way I read it, the crowd has had this backwards for a long time. For years, it treated coin counts as trivia. It isn't trivia. It's a denominator under every comparison of who is bigger than who. And once you see it like that, half the fights in this market stop being interesting. So where does the real demand actually show its face? Not in a headline, it's in the order book. Here's what happened in South Korea. On Upbit, the country's largest exchange, XRP against the won did $319 million in a single day and accounted for nearly 22% of everything traded on the venue. That put it ahead of Bitcoin at 125 million and Tether at 179 million, even ahead of Ethereum at its peak. More than $418 million in retail money came into XRP there. Korean traders has spent the first half of this year in tech stocks, buying Samsung and SK Hynix on the AI boom. And last week, a chunk of that money rotated straight back into crypto. And the detail that makes it matter is the boring one. The kimchi premium, the usual gap between sold prices and everywhere else, sat around negative 0.5. Local prices, in line with global prices. That means Korean buying wasn't trapped in a local bubble, it was feeding the global price. That's a demand signal with a mechanism attached. The flip math is a demand signal with nothing attached to it at all. If you have a view on which of these stories is going to age better by Friday, let me know in the comments. I'd love to read it. Now the honest counterweight, because a desk that only hands you the good half isn't a real desk. This rally is heavily leveraged. On Bitfinex, margin longs in XRP climbed to over 6 billion coins. Daily futures volume is running roughly 4.5 times actual spot turnover. And if price turns toward where it hurts most, there's a cluster of about $25 million in long positions exposed against $3 million on the short side. That's a crowded boat. Wintermute has an XRP short worth more than $10 million on the other side of it, though against $3.61 billion of total open interest, that position is about 0.28% of the entire market. None of this is me telling you what to do with your money. I'm a news desk, not an advisor. I hold what I hold, but here's the part that reframed all of this for me, and it has nothing to do with a privacy coin's price. The XRP Ledger released version 3.3.0. More than 60% of nodes have already been upgraded, and node operators are being urged to move before the amendment blocking catches them. And the list of what's up for vote inside the release is the part that stopped me. Batch transactions, sponsored reserve, permission delegation, and one called confidential transfer, which is privacy-preserving transfers for multi-purpose tokens on the XRP ledger itself. If you sit with that for a second, the argument this week was whether a privacy coin can pass XRP. Meanwhile, the network being compared against is voting privacy into its own rulebook on the same ledger that already exists and settles in seconds for fractions of a cent. A separate bundle of fixes in that release is sitting at 68% of validator support, and it needs 80% to activate. So this is live, it's measurable, and it's happening this week. The way that I read it, a feature is much harder to compete with than a narrative. A narrative needs attention, a feature needs 80%. And there's one more layer under all of it. Brad Garlinghouse put it plainly after the CFTC's Innovation Advisory Committee met for the first time on August 20th. His words, "We had a federal judge write the sentence that XRP in and of itself is not a security. That is the Clarity Act for XRP. Meanwhile, the SEC published regulation crypto assets in the Federal Register on August 21st, and it proposes a conditional safe harbor for the term investment contract. Comments on it close on October 20th. That's the pipe, not the flip. A Privacy Coin listing a $260 million fund is a real event, and I'll cover it honestly, but it doesn't touch a docket, it doesn't touch a comment window, and it doesn't touch what a judge already wrote down. XRP right now is trading at $1.49, and it just broke a downtrend that held since last July. And the thing that carried it there was money moving, not math about somebody else's coin. Send this to one holder who thinks a big per coin price and a big bid are the same things. Stack facts, not fear. Hit the like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.